Great. Good morning. I'm Sean Maher. I'm the Executive Director of Social Planning Toronto, which is a charitable organization that conducts research to shape public policy on issues that affect marginalized people in disadvantaged communities. I'm here with Mike Layton, City Councillor for Ward 19 in Toronto, and Alejandro Ruiz Vargas, who's representing ACORN, which is a membership group of low and moderate income people affected by the housing crisis, who have been campaigning for inclusionary zoning powers to be given to Ontario municipalities for years. We're here to express our real disappointment in that the government has failed to incorporate inclusionary zoning policies in Bill 73, the Smart Growth for Communities Act. Inclusionary zoning policies let municipalities include affordable housing in the list of expectations applied to new developments. For decades, cities have had the power to ensure that new developments contribute their fair share to green space, sewage capacity, and roads, among a host of other things. But Ontario continues to bar municipalities from establishing clear, consistent policies in our zoning bylaws on how new development contributes to affordable housing. In the midst of a housing crisis, that's simply incomprehensible. We're calling on the Minister to amend the current bill to incorporate inclusionary zoning policies. We ask that because it is simple, it is easy, and it's a valuable step that just makes sense. These are not new policies. Municipalities have been, all across North America, have been using inclusionary zoning to create affordable housing for over 40 years. They're not untested policies. 500 municipalities across North America use inclusionary zoning, including municipalities like Chicago, San Francisco, New York, and Boston. They're not highly controversial policies either. All kinds of people across Ontario have been asking for these powers to be allowed. 40 municipalities, including Toronto, Milton, Collingwood, Thunder Bay, and London, organizations like the Nonprofit Housing Association and the Conference Board of Canada and the University of Toronto have called for this. And this is not a trivial oversight. U.S. inclusionary zoning policies are responsible for 150,000 new affordable homes. And Toronto's chief planner estimates that if the province had permitted inclusionary zoning 5 years ago, we would have built 12,000 more affordable homes in the last 5 years. But the government's new bill, the Smart Growth for Communities Act, does something not smart at all. It refuses to give City the tools to create affordable housing at no cost to the taxpayer. It's not that this is too complex. There are already not one but two bills before the legislature that set up inclusionary zoning policies potentially. These could be folded into Bill 73 without much difficulty. But still, Ontario blocks action on this issue. People here aren't asking the government for money. They're not asking the province to take action. They're simply asking the government of Ontario to get out of the way and let cities create affordable housing, create thousands of new homes at no cost to the taxpayer. That sounds like smart growth to me. I'll turn the mic over to Councillor Michael Layton from Toronto.
Thank you very much, Sean. Toronto has over 168,000 households currently on the wait list for affordable housing. And but more than that, we have thousands dependent on precarious conditions in rooming houses and in our shelter system, awaiting for some relief. There's no secret that an affordability crisis is on our hands in Toronto, and it exists not only for lower income families, but for a growing portion of the middle class in our city. While we have 168,000 households waiting for affordable housing, affordable rental housing, we also have tens of thousands of other people renting for decades before they're able to purchase a home if they are. A recent CBC report on real estate prices revealed that the average detached home in Toronto has risen by 12.5% in the last year to reach $1,070,000 in October 2015. That puts home ownership out of reach for most Toronto families. The downtown and other parts of the city are fast becoming increasingly unaffordable to many. And despite the fact that we're building tens of thousands of new housing units, the affordability just isn't there. This means that we're not building a city for everyone. We're not building neighborhoods where everyone is welcome or able to participate. And that's dangerous and an unstable direction for Canada's largest city to be moving in. In June 2015, Toronto City Council supported my motion requesting that the province amend Bill 73 to give the City of Toronto permission to use inclusionary zoning powers. We're not here today to ask for more money from the province to help address the crisis that was downloaded under Mike Harris. Although we shouldn't pass on the opportunity to stress the need for additional resources from every level of government that are needed to be part of a well-rounded strategy to address affordability and homelessness. We're simply here today to ask the province to say yes and give the City of Toronto and other municipalities the power to use inclusionary zoning so that we can choose to direct developers to set aside a number of units in their large residential developments for affordable housing. It's difficult as an elected official to watch 1,000 units go up in a development and not be able to say a portion of that has been carved out so that people of every income bracket can have a home. The province just needs to say yes and include this power in Bill 73 that's currently before committee. The Liberals have hinted on their support for inclusionary zoning in the past. MPP and my former colleague, Peter Milchin, put forward a private member's bill that would have given municipalities the power to choose to use this tool. Sadly, this bill has gone nowhere. The province has in fact had inclusionary zoning before them 5 different times in recent years, thanks to efforts of NDP MPP Cheri DiNovo. She has worked tirelessly for inclusionary zoning, but the current government has not passed her legislation. I'm not sure what's prevented the Liberals and the minister from simply signing off on the reg and giving the City of Toronto and other cities the power under the City of Toronto Act and the Planning Act. A simple power that would allow us to address the needs of hundreds of thousands in Toronto. But I don't know. There should be nothing stopping them here today. There is no time to waste. As we've heard from Sean, we're missing an opportunity here in the City of Toronto. There's no need for delays. We need this government to listen to the voices of housing advocates, the anti-poverty community, the city's MPPs from Peter Milchin to Cheri DiNovo, and formerly the City of Toronto through my motion, and amend Bill 73 so that Toronto can have the authority to implement inclusionary zoning and build desperately needed affordable housing. Thank you.
I'll now call on Alejandra Ruiz Vargas from ACORN.
Thank you, Sean. I'm here representing ACORN about the important issue of inclusionary zoning. ACORN is a group of working people that is fighting for social change. We need inclusionary zoning, including the Bill 73, because there is a housing crisis in Ontario. I work in the housing sector, and I had sometimes to find homes for people. Every day I see people in OW, Ontario Works and Ontario Disability Support Program, that need affordable housing. And inclusionary zoning will be a good option or have some potential for people. My job has allowed me to see how hard it is to rent in Toronto. And my personal experience and people that I know and people that I work and people that I know through ACORN that are that are members like me, we never will be able to afford rent a home in Toronto, even though I make $48,000 a year. We are good to work in Toronto, but we not good enough to afford a home. So even renting for myself is very difficult. One thing that I think personally that is important to have inclusionary zoning in Toronto is because we need hope. Toronto need hope, and inclusionary zoning will give this hope to people. This is why ACORN has been working on a campaign for inclusionary zoning laws since January. When we found out that the Liberals in January or early in the year, they brought out a bill that includes inclusionary zoning, we were so excited. But then we say, what is the bill? Because it vanished. But when they brought up Bill 73, we noticed that nothing was for inclusionary zoning there. So if the Liberals are serious about affordable housing strategies, they need to include inclusionary zoning. in Bill 73. And my last statement, and please pay attention to this statement, like carefully, until we don't treat the housing crisis as a natural disaster, as a catastrophe, as a hurricane, we're not going to get nowhere. And please, we need inclusionary zoning in the Bill 73. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's clear that the need is significant and the tools are there and ready to use. There is no impediment to the province getting out of the way of municipalities that want to build affordable housing. It's now up to Premier Wynne to act on her long-standing commitment to listening and hear from communities all across the province who are saying, please stop blocking our ability to build affordable housing. The bill is now in committee. It's an ideal time to make this amendment and incorporate inclusionary zoning into the Smart Growth for Communities Act. Thank you. Yeah. Questions?
Yeah, my question for Councillor Layton. So you said that the City Council has sent the formal request to the province. I just want to know when the City Council sent the formal request. And right now, since the amendment is in the hand of the committee, so how long you expect the House to vote on this bill?
Well, the most recent request formally from the City of Toronto was in June. The motion passed in June. That isn't the first time that we've requested that power. The City and the province have entered into discussions around amendments to the City of Toronto Act. This is one of those amendments that we've been searching, so we're also working that avenue. I'll be attending the committee later today to give a deputation on the matter. So hopefully, this is something that at the committee stage can be taken care of, and it doesn't need to be amended further as it goes through the House.
For anyone can explain, so how important the city has authority to for the zoning, to have the power to control the zoning for the affordable housing?
So the city has the power to control zoning, but they're forbidden from applying inclusionary zoning to those powers. The chief planner of the City of Toronto, a municipal staff person, not a politician, estimates that there would be 12,000 more units of affordable housing in Toronto right now if we had this power 5 years ago. So that's how important it is.
So right now, if the government, the Liberal government, add this amendment, so this is going to help a lot of people who are on the waiting list.
Literally tens of thousands.
So how soon that we can see the difference if the province add this amendment?
So the bill is in committee currently. They are in hearings right now, and if you're in attendance at the committee this afternoon, you'll probably hear from several organizations coming forward, calling on the province to incorporate inclusionary zoning into that bill. Once the hearings are over, they will go into clause by clause, and they can amend the bill in any way they wish, including taking any of the bills before the legislature that currently build inclusionary zoning into the powers of municipalities and simply folding that into Bill 73.
The province have the easy job here. Once the province changes the regulation, it's the municipalities that are going to have to implement it. And that means going back through our zoning bylaws and official plans and determining policy. In the U.S., there's a range of tools for how they secure the affordable housing, how much affordable housing, what percentage of units. That's something that cities will have to manage and come up with, negotiating with the communities that these zoning bylaws apply to, as well as the development sector, who of course will have something to say on the matter. Now that could take some time. We've actually requested that Toronto City, the Toronto City Planning Department, start that process, come up with a policy in anticipation that the province will change the regulation, so that we can implement the policy right away.
So
we know that for property or for builders or property owners, they want their house value to grow. So they're worried that if mixed with the community housing within the neighborhood, their value gonna go down. So how do you gonna, because we know that if the city has the power for have the power to control zoning in the newly developed properties, so how are you gonna implement this with the new property?
So one of the things that we really need to do when setting public policy is not just think about how people feel, but think about what the research actually tells us. And what it tells us is building affordable housing in a neighborhood has no appreciable adverse effect on property values at all. Some of the most expensive housing in Toronto is right next door to some of the largest public housing developments in the country. I don't know how many people in this room can afford a house in Cabbagetown. I know I can't. And the fact that it's right next door to Regent Park has never stopped those property values from growing.
So if this amendment passed, this is gonna give the authority for the city to control zoning. So this powers only apply for the new development, condos or houses, or is it gonna help with the old buildings as well?
Sadly, this is about new development, and that's why this is one of the tools in the toolbox. It allows us to leverage the enormous amount of wealth that's being created with building the tens of thousands of condominium units in Toronto and getting a part of that set aside, not only to provide affordable housing, but to make sure that these are smart, strong neighborhoods. You can't have a situation in a city where all of the people with means and money live in one part of in one neighborhood, and all of those that don't live in another part. What you want to do to have that strong community is have that have various incomes distributed throughout the community. I grew up living in a co-op, and the fact is that building was made stronger by those that were paying market value and those that weren't.
And that's one of the reasons why so many groups are saying to the province, please take your foot off the brake now, because we are missing opportunities every day. Every time new housing is built in Toronto, new expensive housing is built in Toronto, we see two things happen. We miss an opportunity to use inclusionary zoning to build new affordable housing, and we miss an opportunity to combat one of the struggles that Toronto has, which is that it's being split into three cities. One where almost everybody is living on low incomes, one where almost everybody is living on high incomes and are very separate. That's not good for a city, it's not good for neighborhoods, and inclusionary zoning gives us one more tool to combat that rapidly accelerating trend.
I see. So the inclusionary zoning will give to the city a vibrant, different vibe, isn't it? Because when we see people like me or people that always wake up thinking that they're not going nowhere because they're never going to be able to afford housing. This really will change the look of the city too, and it will stop violence. Because when you had a city that has like Sean was saying and Michael was saying, like a stratification, it really will not help the city, and it will bring a lot of violence. Well, this is how I see it.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.